Aloha, everyone. Michelle Melendez, Blossom Inner Wellness and Stand Together Hawaii.com. And today, my guest is Tina Leah of Hawaii Unites. And we're going to be talking and giving you the update of what's going on with the mosquitoes that are being released in Maui, because something important just happened, a few weeks ago. And I want to give you guys the update, especially if you're here on the islands, because they are putting out injected uh, bacteria injected mosquitoes onto Maui right now, and they're wanting to do a whole lab. And so I want to, super excited to have you on, Tina. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to see you.
So before we start, I want to share a quick little story. I was asked to speak at a church, which I was super grateful for. And we had over 200 people registered, and it was a church in LA. So it was the Altadena church in Altadena. And my heart just goes out to all of the people who've had their houses destroyed. I, again, wrote the book, Great Maui Land Grab, What Caused the Maui Fire, and Is Your Home Next? And the reason why I'm sharing this is because after my presentation, I had a whole presentation that showed everything about direct energy weapons, about weather modification, and sharing everything that happened. Because a lot of people had questions about what happened with Maui or what's going on with Maui. And I am going to do an interview with State Representative Ellie Cochran tomorrow to give an update about the Maui residents, Lahaina residents. And but the reason why I want to share this is because at the end of my presentation, and I told them, I said, this is going to be hard for you to see if you guys have never heard this information before. But everything I showed was documented. I showed the Weather Modification Act through Congress of 2016, the Direct Energy Weapons Acquisition Act of 2016, showed them all the documents, everything. And then at the end, a lady asked, or a lady made a statement. She just said, "Do you know Dorothy such and such?" And she said, "Well, she was murdered." And she said, "You should be careful." So you know what my question was, and later on, I was thinking about my response, and I can't remember what my response was. But my response would be now is, where do you draw the line before you'll speak out and do what is right? Not what is easy, but what is right. Where do you draw the line? Because I draw the line at when children get burned alive alone. That's my line. And that's where I'm like, no, this is not okay. And it's not okay to just be quiet about it. It's not okay to think that you're safe, to think that you're to the illusion that that's not going to happen to you and to your children. So that's where my line is. So I and and it shouldn't even be, it should be less than that. It should be people's houses burning down, innocent people, animals being charred alive, just so many things. It's like when the attack comes to your back door or your neighbor's back door, is that enough for you to speak up and stand up for what is right? And I just want to honor my guest today, Tina Leah, because she's doing the same thing I'm doing. She's a brave woman speaking up and speaking out, and not only speaking up and speaking out, but taking these people, these criminals, in my view and in my personal opinion of freedom of speech, to say that these are criminals, to court. So, Tina, you have been fighting this fight with the Wolbachia bacteria injected mosquitoes from the beginning. So, share just quickly why this concerned you and what was your inspiration to speak up and do something about this.
Well, first, thank you, Michelle, for being brave and speaking out about things that are so important to our communities and our futures and children's futures. We do all have to be brave and realize that sometimes there is danger in speaking up, but they're hoping that that will intimidate people, and we can't let that happen. We're in really serious times right now where things that are being put into place now could affect, our entire ability to live in a natural world, in a free world, as, real people in a free, I mean, this is getting pretty serious. So, yeah, we do have to, accept the fact that there's always danger in speaking out and realize that the more people that are willing to do that, the less I believe that that danger, is
That's
for
what I,
individuals. So,
yeah, that's what I told her. I said they can't kill all of us. And here's the thing, if you think they're not going to come for you and your house and your children because you're not speaking up, well, tell that to Lahaina. Tell that to Altadena and LA and South Carolina and Myrtle Beach. All these people, they're not speaking up, but they're being attacked. So you think that you're just quiet and you're safe, but that's an illusion. We are way more safer by every single one of us speaking up. And this one woman said, well, what can I do? I'm just a regular person. And I said, I'm a regular person. I'm a fitness trainer. I've been in the fitness and wellness industry for 30 years. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I had like three to 600 subscribers, and I just started speaking up, and I know that's exactly what you did too. So we're all just normal, regular people. And if each one of us just tells one more person, and that person tells somebody, and that person tells somebody, and we each start saying no, and doing what you're doing is outstanding with the mosquitoes. So I'll go back to that, but I just want to say, you guys, this world is not what we think it is. We came here for a reason. I have a little sticker on my window and it says, if the universe did not need you, you would not be here. You are the bravest of the brave, every single one of us, including you watching and listening and think, no, it's not me. I'm not that brave. Actually, you are, because your butt is here on the earth right now. And you are the bravest of the brave. You were called here and you said, I'm going to answer the call, and you came. So let's do this. So Tina, talk about the mosquitoes in Maui. Why should people be freaking out about this, or upset or worried or concerned?
Well, people should definitely be concerned and paying attention and wanting to learn more about this and not just following the propaganda narrative that's being put out through the agencies that are releasing these mosquitoes and making millions of dollars, you know, and big plans to make a lot more money moving this forward. But the reason that when this first came to my attention, that was almost 3 years ago at this point, and actually, thank you to Michelle. You are the one who put out notification to your email list that they were talking about releasing these mosquitoes. And right away, I was concerned because I already was aware of mosquito releases, for several years. This was on my radar, and to hear that it was coming, right to our home. I wanted to know more. I wanted to know as much as possible and what could we do about this. And the more that I learned, the more concerned I became. And that has to do with one, speaking to a tropical disease expert, Dr. Lauren Pang, and finding out what his concerns were, which were very serious. Reading the agency's own documents, and the more and more I got a hold of these documents, the more clear it became that this was not something they had studied at all. They're lying about multiple aspects of it, and their long-term plans are things that are going to potentially destroy our entire natural world here. Everything that is sacred about these islands, everything that is natural and beautiful and spiritual and connected to the ancestry and, the history, the culture, everything that is pure and true and good is being violated by the plans of these agencies.
So I want to absolutely, and I want to let people know that this is a experiment that has never been done on to this scale. And what they're doing is they're injecting male mosquitoes, injecting them with a Wolbachia bacteria that is supposed to sterilize them so that they're not compatible with the female mosquitoes. However, how they sort the mosquitoes is they shift them, and the women are bigger, right? So that the males sink through the sifter, but they already have in their documentation that they will be accidentally releasing female mosquitoes with this Wolbachia bacteria because the sifting is not 100% accurate. So they're going to be they have it in their document that they were going to be accidentally releasing thousands of female mosquitoes with this new Wolbachia bacteria. And this one female how many mosquitoes can one female mosquito create in her lifetime?
160,000 through the breeding of the generations. So as one female creates more females and they create more females, so during the lifespan of that first female, 160,000 more females. And their sorting technology in all of the documentation for these this mosquito technology, it's acknowledged that that technology of the sorting is imperfect. They're trying to make it better. They do have that sifting technique, and now they've moved into doing an artificial intelligence sorting, and they keep promoting that and changing the numbers of how many they expect to release, anywhere from we wouldn't release any females at all to at certain points admitting that they can release one female for every 250,000 males, which might sound, I don't know, maybe not knowing how many they're planning to release, you might say, oh, that doesn't sound too bad. That is where, in their own documents, everything used to approve this project, they can release over 3,000 females a week on Maui. Now, that's not to say they are doing that, but they can do that, and that may happen. And that's why, when we've taken this to court, that's a big part of it is to say, this is what you approved. And whether you want to say, we're hoping it's going to be this or that, or your numbers keep changing all over the place, the bottom line is the documented numbers to this day are allowing them to release over 3,000 females a week. And the females, just to be clear, are the ones that bite, that breed, and that spread the disease. So everything that they're promoting about this project, that it's perfectly safe and it's only males and you don't have to worry about it, they are lying.
So why should people be worried about a Wolbachia bacteria injected mosquito, female, who that bites them?
Well, we should be worried about any, lab altered organism or, particularly an invasive species and specifically a disease vector being released. Even one would
Mean
be
by
an issue.
for a layman's term, what does disease vector mean for a person who doesn't
Well,
understand?
that would be the female mosquitoes that can transmit disease, a vector of disease. So, and the males, as well, because they can transmit disease to the females that can then transmit it to people and animals. And, there's cycles between the animals and the people. And this is just a never ending, potential catastrophe. But as far as the Wolbachia itself, first, the agencies that are putting out all of this propaganda are saying this is not a foreign organism that's already here. Well, that is not true. In their own documents, they admit that this Wolbachia is being sourced from Malaysia. There's, a whole process with the manufacturing where there is potentially bacteria from Hawaii involved, and this is all happening in mainland labs, and they are not disclosing that manufacturing process even through FOIA requests. We can't get the details on that, but we do know in their own documents, you know, bacteria sourced from Malaysia. They've even talked about it being synthetic at certain points, but they haven't expanded on that. And again, we can't see the details. But the bottom line is no, this bacteria is not here. It's being brought here inside mosquitoes that are disease vectors. And one of the main issues is that there are peer-reviewed scientific studies showing that Wolbachia bacteria can cause mosquitoes to become more capable of transmitting diseases. And that includes avian malaria, which is supposed to be the disease that they are trying to fight here in order to protect the birds. And it includes West Nile virus, which not only birds can get, but people can get. And they have studied nothing about this species, the southern house mosquito that they're bringing in here, and how that Wolbachia bacteria might affect their ability to transmit disease.
And there's other diseases too. Like I remember seeing elephantitis was on your list and some other, I don't know what other ones. That one caught my eye because I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
God. Now
yeah,
have, go ahead.
well, elephantiasis, which is, if you've seen any images of that, that is something that is very painful and debilitating for people and horrifying to look at. If you look at pictures, we don't want that here for sure. Encephalitis, which is brain inflammation. There's more than one kind that the southern house mosquito can transmit, potentially Zika virus. And they do transmit heartworm and, other diseases we might want to be looking at more closely and screening for. And we have found nowhere where they are actually screening for pathogens at all. Not only these diseases, but, molds and bacteria, other bacteria aside from the Wolbachia. No.
So I want to share two things. So they're not testing these mosquitoes for any of these diseases. They're also not the reason for this experiment was so that they would save the birds. They did a whole campaign on saving the native birds because they're all dying from avian malaria is what they claim. And so they claim that they're doing this experiment to save the native birds, and they're not doing any numbers. They're not testing to see if this is working to save the native birds. In fact, when you asked, how are you guys testing to see if this is working and saving the native birds? What did they tell you?
Well, there's been a few questions asked about the data and the results, which, they're saying that they need more time, to even show any data on this, which is, pretty concerning considering it's been almost a year and a half here on Maui. They've been releasing these. We should have some data. But there was a question asked, not by our organization, but another community member on the Kauai environmental assessment, because they're releasing these both on Maui and now on Kauai, asking about how they would monitor the effects of these mosquitoes on the native birds. And again, the whole point of this project is supposed to be to save the native birds that are, according to them, according to these agencies releasing the mosquitoes, dying of avian malaria that is transmitted by southern house mosquitoes. And so that is what this project is supposed to be about, is suppressing those southern house mosquitoes. But when asked that question in their official document used to approve the releases on Kauai, they answered by saying that monitoring the effects of the mosquitoes on the forest birds was outside of the scope of the project. So they,
Yeah, basically, you guys, they just answered when she asked, how are you guys doing this? How are you guys testing to make sure these birds, this is saving the birds? They basically said, oh, that's outside the scope of this experiment. That's the whole campaign that they did to get people to want these injected bacteria on mosquitoes on Maui and now Kauai. And they're saying they're not even testing to see if it's working. And that's in their that's in the isn't in their documentation. There's like something also in their documentation, and you've taken them to court, which we're going to talk about in a second. But before we do that, I do want to share, you guys can join standtogetherhawaii.com. That's how Tina found out about the whole injected Walbaki mosquito in the first place, was 3 years ago when I put out a video on that. So if you're on the islands, please join standtogetherhawaii.com, because I put out emails about what's happening here on the islands, and also legislative bills that we need to stand against. And I do want to say a big mahalo nui loa, thank you very much to everybody who opens their emails from me and takes action. I make it super simple. I go, this is the problem. Here's the action. Here are the steps. 1, 2, 3. I make it super, super easy for you. So standtogetherhawaii.com is the website to join, and you'll also see a lot of different things around that. I think the mosquitoes is also on that page as well. But Tina, let's go to your court case, because you filed a court case against them, the first one. What happened with that?
so we have filed a case in environmental court seeking a ruling that these agencies be required to complete an environmental impact statement, which would be a very comprehensive, multiple studies of how this could potentially affect our environment and our health and the birds and the wildlife and people, and our ecosystems. Because they did not do that, they fast tracked this through. They did something that's called an environmental assessment, which is, a very basic document. It might be, yeah, I think it's 280 something pages. So, if you say that, it sounds like, oh, this is, this must be chock full of goodies. No, zero studies, multiple, just padding of the document with fluff propaganda type information and reference to studies that aren't related to the specific mosquitoes that they're using. And they've done no studies on that. And so that was our initial court case, which is still active at this point. And then what happened was we were in the middle of hearing for our temporary restraining order preliminary injunction aspect of that case to get them to stop until this was resolved. And we had had a hearing, an initial we got to testify and start that process, and we were scheduled to continue that. And then the fires happened. Everything got postponed. In the meantime, the state agencies asked for what's called summary judgment, which is asking the court to just shut it down. This case is, done. And they granted that, which we believed was a very flawed judgment. So we took that to the appeals court. And what we found out last month was that the appeals court has now agreed that the state has done enough studies and can move forward with this. So, but in that ruling, they also acknowledged one of the aspects of our appeals case, which was that the state did not follow the Hawaii administrative rules when they did their environmental assessment. And that has to do with our comments that we all submitted. Um, many comments with huge concerns about this project, including, our comments where we presented these peer-reviewed studies and Dr. Pang's concerns. And they did not properly address that per the Hawaii administrative rules. And so the appeals court did agree and say that they have to now go back and amend that document. So basically, they're saying that they didn't do this correctly, but the aspect of, whether or not they followed the right uh, standard of review for the document, they sided with the state and felt that, they've looked at it enough without looking at any of it really, or ever really acknowledging what we've brought to their attention. As far as what we can do, we do have the potential case that we can bring to the state Supreme Court. So we're looking at that right now, and I'm hoping that we can move forward with that. But we should have a decision hopefully in the next couple of weeks, I would say.
That's wonderful. And so basically here's the thing that blows my mind the most is you're not asking them to stop this experiment. You're asking them to do a full and complete environmental impact statement, not just an environmental assessment, which is like skimming the water. You want to go deep. This is Hawaii, the middle of the freaking Pacific Ocean, and we've had invasive species coming in like the mongoose and the fire ants and all kinds of different things. Now we got different issues with our plants, the beetles and whatnot, and now they're going to bring in this blows my mind because now they're bringing in another invasive species without any a huge impact, environmental impacts statement. And that's all you're asking. You're saying, hey, we're not saying stop. We're not saying don't do this. We're saying don't do it until you do an environmental impact statement showing that it's going to be safe for the island. Okay, that I don't think that's very outrageous. I think that's pretty understandable and pretty reasonable. And for them to go, oh no, we don't need to do that. You've looked at it enough and skimmed the water with this environmental assessment. That just blows my mind.
Yeah. I mean, we have these environmental laws in place in order to protect our natural environment and the health of people and animals and all of these native species, endangered species, the birds themselves. That's why we have these environmental laws. And so, we are actually asking them to stop until it's resolved, until they've actually done the studies. But, if they were to come back and say, that they have looked at all of these aspects of it and to show us something where we could feel that this might not be as detrimental to the environment. We don't know the answer yet until we look at serious studies of multiple aspects of this, but that they did not do that is not acceptable at all. And for the courts to side with allowing these agencies to go forward with massive projects like this that could have implications for the future, irreversible for forever for these islands. They're undermining our environmental laws. And so this is so dangerous what is happening here and, what their plans are moving forward and how, they could potentially even use these court decisions to move forward with more of their plans for the islands, which are, I mean, if this wasn't dangerous and concerning enough, these Wolbachia infected mosquitoes, I really hope people will take a closer look at the information that we're presenting from the agency's own documents about what they want to happen on these islands with their, mosquito genetic manipulation. Just recently here, they put out their state wildlife action plan draft that they're finalizing right now, and we just wrote about this in our newsletter. People have an opportunity to give feedback until the end of the month here through their survey. But in that action plan, talking about the birds, of course, they're talking about mosquito control, and they say they want to do genetic manipulation with mosquitoes. So here they are this whole time, 3 years, Michelle. We've been hearing this, people who are against this don't know what they're talking about. These aren't GMO mosquitoes. This is this safe bacteria that, they're using it all over the world. And all of this information that, first of all, they're lying. And if anyone wants details on the multiple aspects they're lying about there, um, I've got it. I've got the documents. But second of all, the whole time this was about segueing into genetic manipulation with them, not just the mosquitoes. They're talking about, genetically modifying the birds. So everybody, please stand at attention here. This is serious.
This is hawaiiunites.org. You can go to hawaiiunites.org is Tina's website. So what would that mean, genetically modifying the birds? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so Jeanette, so in this state wildlife action plan, it appears that they're referring to genetic manipulation of the mosquitoes, but in additional documents surrounding this mosquito release project plan as a whole, the agencies involved are talking about genetic modification of forest birds. So CRISPR gene editing of forest birds, specifically the EEV. They want to manipulate their genetics to make them more resistant to avian malaria and then release them out into the wild. Now, this isn't, as far as we can see at this point, an official plan, but it's something that they're working towards, and it is alluded to in multiple documents related to the long-term plans for these islands. And this is, how they want to usher all of this in is to start with these Wolbachia mosquitoes. They're going to segue into what's called PGSIT, precision guided sterile insect technique, CRISPR gene edited mosquitoes. You know, this is in their own documents. I am happy to, share those with anybody who is at this point, still not believing this information. It's solid. This is their own information. And now admitting in their state wildlife action plan, genetic manipulation of mosquitoes is on the agenda. And yeah, I believe that, I just want to say they are taking these the agencies involved in, so-called protecting these threatened and endangered native birds are taking them out of their natural habitats, their forest natural habitats, um, putting them in captivity, many of them dying during that process, telling us that there's only so many birds, so many of this particular bird left in the wild. Well, you took them. So how many were in the wild before you took them and their eggs and are admitting to doing this? And now they're saying that they may just have to take all of these endangered species out of their natural environments and hold them in captivity until it's safe to let them back out. Okay? So what happens if they do that and they die in captivity, as many of them do, because that
Yep.
is not their natural way of thriving, and they are being, manhandled. And who knows? I don't necessarily have the details on what they're doing, but I do know, from multiple documents that they do a lot of testing on them and testing their blood and who knows what's happening in captivity, but not anything natural or good for the birds as individuals. But yeah, what if they do wipe out a species? I guess they can just release their CRISPR gene edited version. you know, what? How is this at all honoring these islands and the ancestral connection of these birds. It is so offensive to me that that is their narrative when this is their bigger picture, agenda. And it absolutely is. Absolutely. In their own documents.
Yeah, you guys, you remember when I showed you the Hawaii general plan and I was going through every single word, like I put in stakeholder and showed you where it was? This is what we did with their documentation. Tina, myself, Donna, I think a couple more of us did that with their own documentation, which I can't remember how many pages that was. But we went through and we testified against it. There were more people that were for it, but we had so much information that was from their own documentation that we were concerned about. So Tina, what do you need people to do? I mean, this is about awareness. So please again join hawaiiunites.org. Standtogetherhawaii.com is mine, and I will send you emails and steps to support Tina in her work. But what is it that you need people to do now? Is just become aware of what's happening? Is there anything to do right now? I know that you're always looking for donations to help with the court case, and we actually raised $30,000 in 30 days so that we could what is the language around that court case? You're way more better with the court
Well,
language.
that was for the appeal when we filed the appeal. So we may be looking at something like that moving forward. But until we've made an official decision on the, taking it to the Supreme Court, we're just asking people to continue supporting what we're doing because we are continuing to document, file FOIA requests, alert people to opportunities to testify and speak out. And I will say, at some, there's multiple meetings and opportunities that we have had to speak on this. I think more people are against it. I mean, sometimes they do, like at the meeting you're probably referring to, these agencies kind of rallied their troops and make sure that all of their people that are, benefiting from this, and they parade out, the school children that they're trying to indoctrinate into, falling for this propaganda with all the pretty pictures of the birds and everything else. But, we've had meetings where it's 100% of the testimony and testifiers, and hundreds of pages of testimony in opposition. I think more people are against it, and whenever people become aware of it that didn't know that this was even happening, which is 3 years in, I would hope that more people would be aware, but they're always concerned. I don't often hear from people that and of course, who's going to contact me, but yeah, I definitely get a lot of you know feedback from the people that want to make sure to let me know they don't like what I'm doing. But I don't often hear from people when I'm out and about and I bring this up, that are telling me that they are agreeing with it and they think it's a great idea, especially when they learn what's really happening and what kind of information has been presented that is false information, and how this can backfire and actually kill the birds. And so what can people do? Please go to our website, hawaiiunites.org, and learn more about this. Share that information. Make sure as many people as possible know about this. If there's opportunities to speak out and testify, we have to continue to do that and make sure that that's documented, that our voices are heard. So please follow our newsletter, newsletter.hawaiiunites.org. You can also get to that through our website. And yes, please donate if you can, hawaiiunites.org/donate, and that will help us to continue the work that we're doing to raise awareness. We are potentially taking this to the Supreme Court, and we'll let people know about that soon.
That's fantastic. I just want to say thank you so much for your courage and your tenacity of not giving up on this, because this is big. They want to literally make a lab in Maui and have it be and creating these Wabaki mosquitoes for forever. They want it. It's going to be a cash cow basically for I don't know if it's the state or who it's for. I believe it would be for the state, the corporation of the state, but that's what's coming. That's what's also happening in Maui. So we do want this to go to the next level so that they know if we don't do anything and we just comply and we just sit back, they're going to do what they want to do. It's up to us to not comply and to stand up and say no. That's our kuleana, and we got this. We can do this. So Tina, any last words that you want to share?
Yeah, well, as far as the lab is on Oahu, and I don't know if they're looking at other islands to expand with that, but the lab that we are aware of in their own documents where they've been funded to build out the insectary and they want to mass produce these Wolbachia infected mosquitoes and then the precision guided sterile insect technique CRISPR mosquitoes for release on the islands, I'm sorry, all islands into perpetuity forever per their own documents. Yes, they have a lab already on Oahu where they're working on that. So my last words would be, please help us to make sure that this short-sighted plan that, some people might think this looks like the best chance to save the birds. There's been no evidence that this is actually even effective, let alone safe, could kill the birds. The long-term plans around what they will do if and when that happens, or regardless, their long-term plans for how they want to keep ushering this through and the millions of dollars and who's benefiting, all these multiple agencies involved in this multi-agency partnership, and particularly the Department of Land and Natural Resources that has that lab on Oahu where they want to mass produce the mosquitoes, is the same agency that proposed these mosquito releases, presented these documents, and their own board approved them. So this is this gigantic conflict of interest. Um, yeah. So last words, please. Take a closer look, help us stop this, let people know this is happening. We have no intention of stopping what we're doing, which will be researching, documenting, showing where they're misrepresenting this, and continuing to oppose it and make sure that that is on record because this is not good, not good.
Well, Tina, we just send you so much aloha and so much inner strength for the work you're doing. And let's go ahead and do prayer. Great Spirit, infinite intelligence of all things, we know that we came here for a reason. This whole thing is a game that we came to play, and we are each inspired to take action, whatever our kuleana is. We give so much gratitude for Tina and her team, that it really herself and the lawyers behind her and all the people who have supported her and all the people who are testifying with her. And because of her, we just give her so much gratitude, send her so much abundance, and send her so much inner strength and protection. We know that she's never alone. We know that she has legions and legions of angels that are always with her and always surrounding her. And her guides are inspiring her heart to that she is pulled in the direction that she needs to be. And we just know that, Great Spirit, that these islands are protected, that these islands are sacred, that what is right is here, not what is easy, because we've got this. We take a stand, we step forward, we do what is ours to do, and we trust in you, Great Spirit. And we know that you are keeping these islands safe and that the truth is coming out. The truth is like the shining light of the sun is so, so powerful. The darkness cannot stay hidden. It cannot stay hidden. And so we get to watch this game. We get to watch as things unfold, as the truth comes out, and that those in power are peaceably removed from office, or they voluntarily step down, or their hearts are turned to doing what is right for the people. And just like these people that are doing this experiment on the islands of Hawaii, we ask that their heart be turned to doing what is right, to stopping this before they do an environmental impact statement. We know that that is done, Great Spirit. We see this experiment ending. We call it forth now, and we know that it is done. We know that the vibrational frequency of unconditional love surrounds these islands, and that all people that have a part in this game, that they step forward and do what is theirs to do. We know it is done, Great Spirit, because this world is becoming a better place. We call that forth now. We call forth that all people matter, that the Aina, the land, matters, and that this world is in harmony with each person and with the land. We call that forth now, Great Spirit. Give so much gratitude to all people who are stepping up, stepping forward. So much gratitude to the infinite support that is always with us, the angels and the guides, and you, Great Spirit. We know that it is done, and so it is. Thank you so much, Tina. I'll talk with you soon, and much aloha. Everyone, standtogetherhawaii.com for taking a stand on the islands, and hawaiiunites.org for taking a stand to stop this insane experiment on the people, on the land, and on our ecosystem on the Hawaii Islands. Much aloha, everyone.